In this video I want to give you a chart which represents the poor, middle class and the rich. Absolutely amazing. I think the chart really gives you a thought for things like, it's not just the things that you like to do, but actually those things kind of put you into a category if you're doing those things, if you're poor or if you're wealthy, right? So in my opinion, 90% of it is true. Nowadays obviously it's kind of changing, the class are intermixing. You have the upper class, you have the upper middle class, you have the middle class, then just poor. You can also look up, depending on which country you live, of how much you have to earn to be considered in each class, right? So there is no like hard definition on that, and nobody will say, okay, this is like the bourgeoisie and these are the proletariat. That's not the case anymore, but still 90% of it, it's true. It's just the way you think about things and what you're doing. So let's get straight into it to give you my comments. So this graph is just amazing. There are also some others like that online. They have been designed from one book. Again, the book was written already some time ago, but still what I find interesting is that, for example, when it comes to money, the poor spends the money, the middle class is managing them, and the wealthy is investing. Okay, that sounds kind of realistic, everybody understands that, and it's kind of logical. But let me tell you, for example, this with personality. The poverty appreciates sense of humor, whereas the middle class appreciates achievement, and the wealthy appreciates more connections. So the point here being is, if you are rich enough, you just hire the right people and you don't care so much about achievement, because this trait of achievement kind of goes into everywhere. You feel like, oh, I achieved this, now I want to achieve that, and then you get rewarded for this. It's a good trait to have, but in the end, what matters the most is not what you achieve. It matters, what in the end matters if you want to become successful and wealthy is what the financial says. Like, you can achieve something and you can feel great about it, but then sometimes you become wealthy from it and sometimes don't. And those things require on connections. Connection in the sense not only mean to other rich people, but to the right employees who can bring you to those kind of levels. So managing people, networking the whole time is the most important thing if you want to reach a certain level. And the personality, sense of humor, I mean, everybody appreciates like the sense of humor, but that's literally what I found with the poor or working class, since they really enjoy and they really value people based on sense of humor. I mean, it's a good thing to have, but if you are, like you will see, for example, in the wealthy sphere, not many people have kind of a sense of humor. Many of them just look average and they speak really shy. They don't know how to present themselves. It's because they have never worked on those skills. They have worked more on the skills to actually make money. Social emphasis is kind of clear, but still I gotta say it. Inclusion. So the poverty always wants to feel like they are kind of part of the system. They, when you grow up, you don't have anything. You feel like everybody's having something. You feel like you want to be part of this something. Then when it comes to middle class, they want to be self-sufficient. They want to be as independent as possible from everybody. Whereas the wealthy want to seek exclusion from nearly everything. And the difference between being self-sufficient and exclusion is here. You want to be by yourself and have as much private as possible, but you still want to maintain the connections. For food, it's kind of logical. The poverty just wants to eat as much as possible since they can't eat much. The middle class appreciates quality and the wealthy only cares about presentation. The thing is here, I believe that there's kind of a mix. I mean, the wealthy also appreciates quality food and they don't care just about presentation. But when you have everything, you only care about getting more experience than the average person and connecting with the right people. So that's where you start to go into the high-end restaurants. So you're actually being surrounded by the right people and you feel like the food just tastes better when it's also presented in a fun way. Time is also an interesting thing. The poverty appreciates being in the moment, which everybody does. The middle class always strives for the future, whereas the wealthy, they value tradition. And it's kind of a really interesting point of view, because tradition in the sense means again that they also care about the future, but what they care about is to hold the traditions. They don't ask themselves, they don't try to reformulate how to have relationships with people. Those kind of things are in tradition. Like there was and is still the same kind of values that you have to have, that people appreciate you. You gotta be kind, you have to be humble, you gotta be generous. Those kind of things are really valued a lot. Whereas the poverty just sees to feel good as the highest priority. Also with tradition, do you know how many connections you can get through religion or through charity? Those things are usually much more concerned with traditional people, but still the connections that you're getting from there is just huge. You shouldn't underestimate that. It's always a reason why people stay in religion, especially the wealthy ones. Education is, for poverty, it's abstract. They just think, okay, what can I do to like make money from it? The middle class cares about success and money, and the wealthy cares about maintaining connection. Okay, I mean that's basically the same things as the personality and social emphasis point. Here basically the chart explains that maintaining connections is the highest form of art, and it's kind of true. Like you will not learn it in any school besides Harvard Business School. That's the only place where you can learn such things. But no, for real, like there is no formal education to maintaining connections. That's something that you just learn by being and being surrounded by the others. You see how they start to behave. You start to behave the same way they do. You understand what they need. You understand what you need from them, and you understand the dynamic, the language, casual, register, formal negotiating, formal networking. It's kind of the same point as before. This point is kind of interesting. Family structure. The poverty has a matriarchal family structure, and I mean that sounds really discriminating, but most of the time it's true. Most of the time, like in the poorer class, like the parents separated and the kids have to grow up with their mother, as an example. Or since they kind of pushing each other, and the man doesn't really take care of the family, they're not in the middle class, therefore the woman takes more care, and that's why the woman kind of rules all over the place. Take a look at the poor family examples that you know and see if that kind of correlates with that. Of course, in the middle class, the patriarchal rules, and in the wealthy, it rules who has money. And most of the time, and it's not a stereotype, men have more money than the woman, so most of the time the man will rule there. Driving forces for the poverty is relationships. That's the most important thing what they appreciate. They kind of seek for it, but at the same time, they don't really get them. Because the point is, and again, that's super discriminating, but it's true. The poor don't know how to handle themselves, and therefore they can only get such high caliber of people in their circle. And most of the time, they are poor as well. So if you put two people together that haven't figured themselves out completely, that don't take care much about themselves, they will not be better together. Like there will be no procreated here. Every person has to have certain values that the person gets appreciated from somebody else. And those are listening skills, taking care of the other, knowing how to tell a good story, being kind, being generous, all of those things. So if you don't have them, if you didn't work on them, then it's going to be important for you. Also, the way I understand driving forces is also that the poor is caring much more about relationships. They are speaking about relationships, they are watching movies, and they only pay attention to relationships. Whereas the driving force for the middle class is achievement, like how much did you achieve, what did you got, etc. And here the interesting difference between achievement and financial social is basically, it's not the achievement that you do, but actually the financials that you have in the end. Somebody has a bunch of achievement, but in the end, he doesn't have the money in the end. The same goes for the social things. So you want to be perceived high value in social spheres, and that's what you usually can only do if you have the financials. Nowadays, again, it's possible to be also kind of in the right circles if you got the right achievements. I mean, we are living in crazy times. Nowadays, artists can become billionaires. And I have to say here, like, they became billionaires also by doing some businesses and not being managed. But I believe in a couple of years, some artists without doing any other business than being managed can become billionaires, since we have inflation and all of that. And then those people will be also regarded as in the higher social circles. That's what I believe. So I believe that even with achievement, you can get there, but it's less likable. Like, it's much easier to get into the wealthy circles if you have some form of businesses brings you there, or if you work in finance or in politics. And the last point, destiny, fate, can't change anything. You probably know that. You kind of started to read those self-improvement books and you kind of understood, oh shit, like, I was right, I can actually change things. Then you go into the middle class category where you understand, okay, that's my choice. And in the end, the wealthy kind of has an expectation, and usually it happens this way. Like, for them, they shape reality. If they want to start a war, they start a war. Like, for them, it's not just a choice, but actually the expectation of, okay, I gotta do this, and then I'll be there. I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope you kind of understood that there's a difference between poor, middle, and upper class. Especially pay attention to your habits. If you're considering yourself still in the middle class or the upper class, start to question yourself why you still do those things. Maybe you made already enough money, but you still don't want to be in the upper class. Ask yourself why that is, because in the end, they will hinder you to reach higher forms of wealth. So with that being said, make also sure, if you want to get into the wealthy category, that you subscribe to our channel, that you like the video and hit the bell button, that you comment under the video what you have learned and what the most interesting point of view here was. And with that being said, see you in the next video. Cheers.